Okay, so I welcome you all to the International Conference on Global Trends in English Language, Literature and Linguistics 2022, which is jointly organized by Research Culture Society, Department of English, Mila University Center, Algeria, and International Scientific Research Association, supported by School of Languages, Literature and Linguistics, EU, SRA, and English Literature Club. This is a two-day conference. Now we are on the time schedule of 3 to 4:30 p.m. and I am today's moderator along with Vinya Chauhan. My name is Jaswin Kaur and I am a literature student in Icgtelll College, Chandigarh. And the session chairpersons are Professor J. Adrina. She's head of School of Languages, Literature and Linguistics, EU. Leila Zurez, Associate Professor at Mila University, Algeria. And Dr. Purva Trika, Assistant Professor, GGTSD College, Chandigarh, India. And I would like to request everyone to please keep their mics on mute and all the speakers be ready with their PPT and kindly adhere to the time limit. I'm starting with the first speaker, which is ID number 13, Dr. M.A. Afzal Farooq, and his title paper is Interrogating Concepts of Equivalence and Fidelity in Translation, the Concept of Umrao Janada. Are you there, Mr. Dr. M?
Is my screen visible?
Yes, please continue.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Good evening, everyone. The title of my paper is Interrogating Concepts of Equivalence and Fidelity in Translation, the Context of Umrao Janada. So as I begin my paper presentation, I must admit the fact that this paper falls into two distinct parts. The first part forges the theoretical foundation, and the second part is the application part. So while trying to frame the theoretical part, my focus was on the exploration of the ideas of the concepts of equivalence and fidelity, along with an in-depth analysis of translation as a whole. So in translation, we have certain issues, and one of the most nagging issue is the issue of equivalence, and the other is fidelity. So as I started off with my paper, the paper is on Umrao Janada, which was written originally by Hadi Muhammad Raswa, and it was translated to English by Khushwant Singh. Now, the text that we have in the original form is in translation studies called ST, and the text which was created out of the ST is called TT, the target text. Now, the focus of the paper is how the idea of equivalence and the idea of fidelity they are negotiated. We get to see that the protagonist of the novel is from a cultured family, and she has got inborn a kind of inbuilt nobility, and somehow through the vicissitudes of luck, she ends up into the household of a lady called Madame Khanum, and there she finds herself trading her body. And this is how the novel begins, and you get to see that the protagonist, who is called Umrao is ending up as a courtesan. Now, the courtesan that she is, Umrao is, Khushwant Singh's translation of the ST gives rise to issues as to how he negotiated with the idea of fidelity, number one, and number two, equivalence. So as we talk of equivalence, before that, the methodology that I have adopted, for this paper is close textual analysis, and the theorists, that I have used for scripting this research paper are Henry Remick, Lawrence Venuti, Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak, and Lawrence Venuti. So these are the theorists that I have used, for this paper. Now, in this paper, I tried to locate equivalence in both the texts, that is in the ST as well as the TT. So while trying to locate it, in the ST, I found that the ST writer has created a particular milieu, in the language of Lawrence Venuti, and that milieu continues throughout the novel. While Khushwant Singh translated into English, he did try to create that milieu, the required milieu, where the invariant code, of the ST, he attempted to retain. But that was possible by the translator with the help of certain mechanisms. And the mechanism that he developed, or rather he espoused, was the mechanism of retaining certain vocabularies or certain words of the ST verbatim in the TT. Now, when the translator retained the exact words, of the ST, which was in Urdu, in TT, goes to reflect the fact that there was a kind of a dirt, a kind of paucity on that the translator experienced while he was translating, and the paucity that was experienced was the paucity of verbal equivalent. That is, there was a crisis of verbal equivalence, in the course, of the translation of Umrao Janada. Now, as we come to translation studies, as a full-fledged branch of study, it has been, traced. Its history has been traced, by Spivak and Basnet beautifully, and they said in their seminal work called Translation Studies, they said that the 1980s was a decade of consolidation for the fledgling discipline known as translation studies. Having emerged onto the world stage in the late 1970s, the subject began to be taken seriously and was no longer seen as an unscientific field of inquiry of secondary importance. Now, 1970 has been stated as the time when translation studies got onto the world stage. And this takes us to a time, period of 1976, when for the first time, J.H. Holmes used the term translation studies in one of his papers titled Name and Nature of Translation Studies. So the translation studies that we are studying these days is a title that was given by Holmes only in 1976. And that's why Bessner says that 1970s was the time, when translation studies got onto the world stage. Now there are a lot of reasons, why translations are getting popular today, and why and how it overcame certain challenges that were posed to it, by certain forces. Particularly, Gayatri Chakraborty Spivak and Tejaswani, they feel that translation was effectively used in the past as an instrument of colonial domination, a means of depriving the colonized people of a voice. So translation during the colonial period was used as a kind of a means to suppress the voice of the colonized people. And today, translation studies has become a booming area primarily because of globalization and the liberal economy that we have today, which has rendered the people, the world, a kind of borderless world. The nation states, they have lost their borders, and every literature of one country is easily flowing into another country. When it comes to the issue of equivalence in translation generally implies a vocabulary that a translator uses in the TL to replace a vocabulary in the SL. Now, in other words, it is a verbal equivalent whose meaning is generally supposed to be exact or at least approximate to the meaning of the ST. So Popovic had identified 4 different types of equivalence: linguistic, paradigmatic, stylistic, and textual. Besides Popovic, Nida is another great translation studies scholar, and he identified 2 equivalents. One is formal equivalent and the other is dynamic equivalent. The equivalents that Khushwant Singh uses in his translation, they come under the equivalents given by Popovic. Now, the idea of fidelity goes hand in hand with translation, and one of the reasons why translation seemed to be getting a kind of a backseat, one was considered to be a kind of subsidiary art, was the fact that translation was not believed to be an art which remained faithful to the original text. That is, remaining faithful to the original text, or ST, is core to the idea of translation. In the absence of fidelity to the ST, the translation or the translated text loses its credibility and therefore the translator is supposed to be faithful to the ST. Now, in Umrahs and other, there are issues, as I mentioned in the beginning of my paper, that there are issues of equivalence and fidelity. While the TT of Khushwant Singh captures the milieu and transfers the messages of Ruswa's ST commendably, one can nevertheless observe the translator falling short of adequate verbal equivalence in the process of translation. Retention of the Urdu vocabulary in many instances in the TT points the paucity of equivalence in the TL. Now, I have listed here some examples from the text where the translator retained certain Urdu words as it is in his translation. Say, for example, wah wah, makarrar shad, and many other words, Urdu words, he has retained verbatim in his translation, which goes to reflect the fact that there was the translator was experiencing a kind of a crisis of equivalence in the translated text. Similarly, the issue of verbal equivalent, the issue of fidelity assumes tremendous importance, in Khushwant Singh's translation, and it is often said that a translator, no matter how much he tries to remain faithful to the original text, finds it difficult to remain so because no 2 languages are the same. So when information from one particular language is transferred to another language, it is generally done with the help of verbal equivalents of the other language. And when there is absence of verbal equivalents in the other language, the translation or the transfer of information that suffers. And that creates a kind of gap, which in translation studies is called distortion. So there is a great amount of, great element of possibility that there will be distortion when there is want of verbal equivalence, in the TL, in the target language. And Khushwant Singh, when he was transferring information from ST to his TT, he did experience that the paucity of verbal equivalence. the feminist critics, they tend to give it a kind of feminist color to the entire idea of fidelity, and they say that when we talk of fidelity, in translation, then this is nothing short of sexualization of the entire translation process. By talking about fidelity of the translator to the original text, we try to demean the status of translation as a body of study. They argue that since translation is also a creative process, the question of fidelity should be avoided. And if it is adhered to, it means that the way a wife is expected to be faithful to the husband in real life, in the same way, a translator is also expected to be faithful to the source text, which defies logic. Therefore, the feminists say that the idea of fidelity to the ST, that should be rejected in favor of the idea that proliferation of knowledge should take place, so that through translation, knowledge can travel from one country to another, thus cross the national borders. In conclusion, I would like to say translation, once considered as statutory art, is actually a difficult art that demands repeated rereadings of the text by the translator to faithfully transfer the information to TT. It no longer can be dismissed as an inferior art, or as Dryden called it, someone else's field. It has become a serious art form now. Spivak and Bassnett are strong advocates for the proliferation of knowledge through translation, with increased transnational and transborder activities rendering the nations borderless. And Philip to liberal economy, translation has found an altogether new world and scope to flourish unprecedentedly. Thank you.
My title is about challenges of students in comprehending business English idioms from teachers' perspective. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are audible. Yes, you are
Okay,
audible.
introduction. The wide flourishing of business has been a large influence in the development in the business English. Business English is largely used in international commerce in a globally contacted world. Business English has become important as more and more firms want their staff to be multilingual. It is the English that is required business and aims to teaching English to those who are working or preparing to work in a business environment. Obviously, there are many who are non-native speakers are studying the subject in order to do business with English-speaking countries or with companies located outside the English-speaking world, but who nonetheless use English as a shared language or lingua franca. According to Duna, business English contains the teaching of English to adults working in business of one kind or to those who are planning to work in the sphere of business. Business English is a widely growing domain in the area of English for specific purposes, ESP. Clearly, it has become the major branch of this area. For Elias and Johnson, 1994, business English must be seen in the overall context of English for specific purposes, as it shares the important elements of needs analysis, syllabus design, course design, and material selection and development, which are common to all fields works in ASP. As business English is growing rapidly, the study concerns with the difficulty that students majoring in the business English at the Faculty of Languages, University of Eden face in comprehending business English idioms. Statement of the problem. There is a consensus among the linguists that the idiomatic expressions are the difficult type of the language. The difficulty of such types emerged to the meaning of these expressions, which is not easy to comprehend since the individual meaning of the words cannot achieve the intended meaning. Therefore, it has been noticed that the students in the Business English department in the Faculty of Languages, University of Eden, encountered challenges in comprehending business English idioms. Thus, the study investigates such challenges in order to propose effective solutions to these hurdles. Objective of the study. The study is conducted to achieve the following objectives. One, to investigate the challenge from teachers' perspective that business English students encounter in understanding business English idiom. Two, to find out the effective solution that may help students to pass these hurdles. Research question. This study tries to answer the following questions. Question number one, what are the challenges that business English students encounter in understanding business English idioms? Question number two, what are the effective solutions proposed by teachers that may help in overcoming the hurdles that face students when exposed to the business English idioms? Literature review. The word idiom dates back to a Greek term that means on or peculiar, being it inseparable comments of language. Idioms have a special position within it. Definition of idiom, there are many definitions that to the idiom. Beaker has defined idioms as frozen patterns of language which allow little or no variation in form and often carry meanings which cannot be deduced or deducted their individual components. In the same regards, Sinclair had defined idioms as a group of two or more words which are chosen together in order to produce a specific meaning or effect in speech or writing. In other words, an idiom is an expression whose meaning cannot be comprehended through literal definition and configuration of its parts, but refers instead to a figurative meaning that is known through the common use. Business English idioms. Business idioms are the expressions that are widely used in the field of business, such as marketing, economy, accounting, administration, customs, business correspondence, banking, and finance and trade sectors in general. They are available in every language and governed by rules that are suited to those language. Al-Abbasi 2015. Business idioms don't differ in the classification of general English idioms, but there are differences in the meaning of words. Therefore, words have meaning in general English, but the same words convey another meaning when come in business context. Research methodology. The qualitative method analysis of data has been adapted. The sample of teachers with purpose of sample selected from teachers working in the business English department at the Faculty of Languages, University of Eden. The total number of the sample of the teacher selection stands 12 responses, 10 no responses, 1 and 1 not valid. Invalid. The valid sample of the study is 10 responses. Instrument and method. The instrument used to collect data with the qualitative questionnaire. Qualitative questionnaire attempts to elicit in-depth responses and are usually designed to find out what had changed as a result of the program. Two open-ended questions were asked in order to collect the data. Open-ended questions offer the respondent the ability to elaborate on their thoughts. Analysis, findings, and recommendation. The study investigated the challenge that business English students at the Faculty of Languages, University of Eden face in understanding business English idiom. The findings of the study revealed that the majority of the students face a number of difficulties when learning business English idiom. Thus, teachers should adapt multiple methods and techniques in their idioms class in order to enhance their students' comprehension of business idiom. Additionally, students need to improve their communication skills through idiom-based learning. The findings showed that the linguistic competence has an important role in comprehending business English idiom. However, there are some factors that cause reading become difficult for students. Syntax, semantic, vocabulary knowledge, finding main ideas, making references, memorizing the words, difficulties in tenses, getting information, answering questions, lexical problems, etc. The business English students have difficulties in reading comprehension because their linguistic competence is still poor. It can be said that the difference of linguistic elements between their first language and the foreign language causes the AFL be confused and give difficulties in reading English and comprehending business English idiom. The study can also have implication for students instead of the traditional method learning of idioms, they can try a mixture of different techniques in their own learning experiences. Further, business English students in the fourth level in the college encounter different difficulties because of the lack of cultural background. The findings affirm the importance of teaching the cultural context of the language. Hence, students should learn not only popular business idiomatic expressions and L2 expressions with analogies. They should also learn L2 idioms whose conceptual metaphors don't have analogies in their mother tongue. Recommendations. Based on the outcomes of the study, it is highly recommended that business idiomatic expressions awareness should be given importance in syllabus design. More advanced techniques should be engaged in teaching business English idiom, and the use of study data in business vocabulary teaching is highly recommended. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very informative presentation. Now our next speaker is Miss Shrabani Das,
Sorry,
and her
but
title is
hello,
yes, ma'am.
hello.
Hello.
Yes, I just want to ask. Yes, I just want to ask Abdullah Muhammad a question.
Yes.
Yes, concerning business English idioms.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation and this topic, which is up to date, in fact. But I just want to ask you about, okay, you have talked about the importance of idioms and the importance of teaching or learning business in English idioms. Do
Yes.
you have specific techniques that facilitate or help students in learning these idioms more easily and uh, more efficiently? I mean, the technique. What about the techniques?
Yeah. The technique of teaching or learning business English idioms. You should teach these linguistic expressions within the context. It is the easiest or the appropriate way to learn or to teach these idiomatic expressions within the context. Also to be awareness of the cultural differences when teaching business English idioms.
Afternoon to the eminent sorry, sir. A very good afternoon to the eminent dignitaries and research scholars present here. Before presenting my paper, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nayash Patna. I'm a research scholar at the Department of English, LNMU, Darbhanga. Now, what I'm presenting today is a paper on postmodern writer Khalil Hosseini, a postmodern study of Khalil Hosseini's fiction, The Kite Runner. It is also related to my research work and the sub-theme of the today's conference. Now the slide on your screen shows a picture of a fun tradition of kite flying. Here, two friends, Amir and Hassan, were flying a kite. Amir was a good kite flyer, whereas Hassan was a good kite runner. And this is one of the most trending work in Afghanistan to fly a kite. Now here we will learn about postmodernism. First of all, what is postmodernism? It is an era after the World War II to the mid lead to the 19th century, 20th century. It has lack of belief about maritime, rigidly totalizing system of thought, grand style applied to art, literature, philosophy, architecture, etc. In the postmodern era, it is a time of global social and political unrest. In the postmodern era, ideology maintains the power. Now, major tenets and themes of postmodernism. In the postmodernism, there is relative to interpretation, skepticism, irony, significance of self. And when we see the novel Kite Runner, we have find these things in this novel. And this novel is something autobiographical too, and it has written by Khalil Hosseini. When he wrote this novel, he write whatever he feels. He wrote about the historical aspect and the political aspect of that time in Afghanistan. Now, I will give you some information about the writer Khalil Hosseini and then about the novel. Khalil Hosseini was an Afghan-born American writer. He was born in Afghanistan, Kabul in 1965. His mother worked at Girls High School and his father was a diplomat in Afghan Foreign Ministry. He spent 11 years of his childhood in Kabul and then he moved to California for higher education. And here he earned his degree in medicine in 1993. While practicing in 1993, he wrote his first novel, The Kite Runner. After the grand success of the first novel, he wrote further two more novels, A Thousand Splendid Suns and A Mountain Eagle. Now, the novel Kite Runner is a novel first written in English by Khalil Hosseini, and it is first published by Riverhead Books in 2003. This novel is something autobiographical, and in this novel, he primarily focused on protagonist's life period in three periods. First, the childhood in Kabul, and then he and his father first year as an immigrant in 1980s California, and 2001 Taliban controlled Afghanistan. The whole story is a fretful family relationship between a father and a son and two childhood friends. Rather, he was brother also. How they deal with their guilt and redemption. The action of the story takes place in the protagonist's homeland. Now, this is the main theme of the paper, theme of guilt. As Voltaire said, every man is guilty of what good he didn't do. he rightly said that because Amir the protagonist always in the always in the theme, always in the guilt, because Amir experience make him unrest for his life. He thinks whatever bad he's done with his father and his friend Hassan, he thinks that his father hated him because he killed his mother while because his mother was died in the childbirth. He thinks his father not like him for finding the love from father. He can do anything, whatever. This is not wrong for not good for him. Now the theme of guilt is further demonstrated through his friend Hassan. He says that he always do the things which is not reliable with his friend, because most of the time Amir read for Hassan, and when he read for Hassan he always choose tough stories, which Hassan can't understand easily. When he asked the words, he mocked at him and said that this is the meaning of something wrong meaning. But after hours he thinks that this is a harmless prank whatever I have done. For this harmless prank he gave some of his old toys and old shirts to them. then he then he confesses one of the biggest guilt whatever he has done when he watched Hassan get raped, and he can't do anything. He just wants his blue kite for posting in front of Baba is his father, in front of his Baba. And then he says that I watch Hassan get raped but I can't do anything. And then he thinks that this is not good thing. When he back home he was feel uneasy and don't have courage to face the Hassan. So he thinks I could ran out and put out the Hassan from our house. Then he made a plan. In his birthday present, he made some of his gift and hide behind the mattress of Hassan, and said, "Baba, he has theft the item in our house, and thefting is one of the bad habits. So you have to." You have to throw out Hassan from our house. But Baba forgive him. But Papa forgive him. Then he says that this is you can live here. But Ali knows the truth, and then Ali said we have to go. Now Amir thinks. Then Amir and his father go to California. Here Amir always thinks about his past life, whatever wrong he has done. He thinks we have to find redemption, as redemption is something regaining virtue and morality from our previous mistake. In the novel Kite Runner, Amit goes a long, painful journey to find atonement for his childhood sin. When Rahim Khan told him there is a way to be good again by rescuing Hassan Shurab, first he refuses. Rahim Khan, I will not come. But when Rahim Khan told him, Hassan is actually is your half brother, and you have to rescue his son, then he say, okay, I will come. Then he goes to the Kabul and save Hassan, saves Shurab in the hands of Asif, who is a killer and raper of Hassan. And then he got a chance for redemption. He make fight with Asif and take Shurab to America, and always try to entertain Shurab by kite flying together to the innate from his past traumas, and thinks time will still stand. For the shortest time, I will jump on the acknowledgement. First of all, I would like to thanks to Allah, the Lord of Universe. Furthermore, I would like my express my deepest thanks to Mrs. Manju Roy, Professor of English, LNMU Darbhanga, Mr. Amrind Kumar Sharma, ex-associate professor of English, CM College Darbhanga, for giving me necessary advice and precious guidance. Then I would like to thanks to members and organizing committee of the Icgtelll 2022 for giving me platform to present my research paper. Last but not least, I would like to thank my beloved parents, family members, and my dear friends for their support and guidance. That's all about. Thank you. And one more thing, I just want to say, whatever wrong deeds we have done, there is always a way to be good again. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for delivering an enlightening presentation. That was really wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now we are moving to our next presenter, which is ID number 18, C. Krishnamurthy.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, and
Am I audible?
your title. Yes, you're audible. Your title is Literature Mirroring Epitome of Society.
Just a minute, I'll share my screen. A mirroring epitome of society. Literature has always been considered to be a reflection of society itself. So the entire society is considered to be a dystopia, and it is never an utopian society, which Plato or Thomas More aimed for. So first thing, we'll move through the major barricades which have been, which cannot be removed from these societies. One is patriarchy, and I have chosen the and other thing is like Girls, an Indian short story by Mrinal Pandey. So in these two novels, first thing is patriarchy is a subjugating of the other gender. The other gender can be of the third gender which has been raised, and of course the queer genders. But and this patriarchy is prevalent to this entire blue planet. While comparing this patriarchy with the two novels, first thing is Girls. In this short story by the Indian author, the setting is in Navaratri, and obviously this is a festival which prizes the goddess. But here, ironically, we have the narrator, an 8-year-old girl, and she is like subjugated by the entire family because her mother is pregnant, and the entire family is expecting a boy child. So the importance of a woman is reduced, and the importance of male child has been focused a lot. So the concept of toxic masculinity. For this, I'll give you the example of Jane Eyre. In Jane Eyre, to be in specific, during the earlier stages, when Jane hits her cousin because he hits her initially, but she is accused, and this kind of accusation happens because this concept of patriarchy is not only applicable in Indian society, but also all over the England and other cities. Then next is a woman in men's world. So evolution of women writers using pen name. Obviously, we have this famous writer, the classical writer George Eliot, who is very uneven. So, like Darwin says, man has been evolved from apes. Similar to that, the women writers who use men pen names to hide their identity, because the main reason was during these times it was considered to be a sin for women to write. And Victorian era novels are given as Jane Eyre as the embodiment of feminism. So this is a classic novel, Jane Eyre, where you can see the travel of Jane from her early childhood, escaping from her aunt, and then getting into a school, and then escaping from and successfully fighting through the corrupt headmaster, then meeting Lockwood and everything. But the concept of feminism is it is completely in her own narration. Like she addresses herself entire feminism in the situation of feminism. Feminism has failed. Concept of new woman has been raised up. So next thing is discrimination, and how can one define discrimination? So discrimination has been like several genres or several subcategories like race, color, caste, profession, class, and gender. So as we are in India, and basically I'm speaking about these Indian novels, we have the concept of caste, class, and gender, and even color at times. So I have chosen the novel Untouchable by Mulkraj Anand, and you have the professional and the class discourse, where you can see that how Munnu is facing discrimination because he is a latrine cleaner by the higher class, and even the higher class tries to molest his sister, and like so many discrimination has been happening in Untouchable. And next thing is, as I told you earlier, the short story Girls, where we can see the gender bias. So gender bias is another most social evil which has been predominantly following. Even though we are living in the 21st century, this concept remains the same. It has not been broken or burnt down. The next thing is, while speaking about the concept of feminism, the concept where I have portrayed the image of Hard Times by Charles Dickens, because we can see that this is the novel where the main character, like a grand's daughter, is like she's commodified to for his political purpose. She's commodified. So a woman has been commodified everywhere, and the concept of feminism has been broken down. So through my presentation, I try to explore that the concept of social evils still prevail in literature. So whatever the literature text prevails, these evils has not been reduced. What Rajaram Mohan Roy and other people tried to abolish during the earlier stages, like Sati, has been done that, but the concept of commodification and subalternation still happens. And other most important novel which I tried to quote is Henry James's What Maisie Know. So Maisie is nothing but a 10-year-old girl who is caught between an evil of divorce between father and mother. She's just an what to say? She's just a toddler. She doesn't know what is right and what is wrong. With her emotions, the parents play, and the parents separate themselves for their separate own lives. And through this, I'll conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very informative presentation. Now I'm handing over it to our second moderator, Vinya Chauhan, and she will announce the names of rest of the remaining speakers.
A very good afternoon, one and all. Without any further ado, I would like to continue with our next presenter, serial number 19, Miss Manisha B. And the title of her paper is The Scarlet Letter, Feminism During the Puritan Age.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm able to share
Yes,
my PPT, ma'am.
Yes, try now.
I'm Manisha, a PG scholar from Holy Cross College. The title of my paper is The Scarlet Letter, Feminism During the Puritan Age. Moving on to the introduction, this work, The Scarlet Letter, was written in the year 18... Yes.
Hello. Hello,
The
sir.
story
Yes, yes, please continue.
The story revolves around the life of Hester Prynne, who is indeed the protagonist of this novel. The story itself is set in the 17th century Puritan community of Boston. The story deals with the protagonist's life, who is badged as an adulteress in the beginning of the novel, and how it gradually changes through the age. Hester Prynne has an affair through which she has an illegitimate child. Hester Prynne is very stubborn on not revealing the name of the child's father. Hester Prynne accepts the public shame and the disgust of the people solely. The Puritan age was a very hectic time for the people of the society. The people were obligated to follow the rules and regulations strictly. The Ten Commandments was basically the rule book of their time in the Puritan community. Breaching of any of the commandments leads to serious and fatal punishments. Hester Prynne, who had failed the seventh commandment, undergoes a series of harsh and insulting punishments. The way how she endured it throughout expresses her resilience and women power. Nathaniel Hawthorne was an American novelist and a short story writer. Nathaniel Hawthorne's work mostly focuses on history, morality, and religion. His best known works are The Scarlet Letter, which was published in the year 1850, and The House of the Seven Gables, which was published in the year 1851. These two works of Nathaniel Hawthorne is considered as the masterpiece of the 18th century American literature. Moving on to the theory of feminism, the idea of feminism started during the late 19th and the early 20th century. Feminism is a range of social, political, and economical movements to establish the double standards of our society and to empower the status of women throughout the world. Even in the present situation, feminism is considered to be a threat by a few and is a joke to few. Considering the fact that the story is set during the 17th century, where the idea of feminism did not even exist, fuels up the interest more. The protagonist of the story, Hester Prynne herself, is the epitome of a female heroine. Hester Prynne was indeed a very beautiful young woman, however, her beauty was just an appearance description in the work. Hester Prynne did not portray or use her beauty in a negative sense. The Puritan society recited the way an individual should regulate themselves in all aspects of life. The Puritan laws and moral standards were signified to escort their lives and keep them on their righteous path. However, it was not always easy to follow these rules. One must have a powerful reason to go opposed to what is considered proper by the society. The main character of this novel, Hester Prynne's reasons are strong enough that she is willing to risk it all for what she believes in. She will be persistently known as a sinner, but also a brave and courageous woman who had the courage to stand up for herself in a time when when women were nothing more than to be very traditional, modest, obedient housewives who are expected to follow the rules and norms which are regulated by the society. Hester Prynne was a combination of both traditional and modern women. Hester Prynne was punished for committing a sin. Hester Prynne was a married woman who had an affair with someone else through which she conceived a child. Hester Prynne was scorned by the people for her action and she was ridiculed by the people of her society, and she was tormented mentally by the people. Despite all of the tribulations, she was persistent on not revealing the name of her child's father to come out either. Even though she was badged with an A symbol, Hester Prynne was wearing the badge on her chest without any hesitation. The letter A represents the scarlet letter. It was an identification mark for adultery. As time goes by, Hester Prynne supports and takes care of her daughter Pearl without anyone's help. She did some handiworks for money to support her daughter. Hester Prynne was self reliant and ambitious. Even though people defied her, they allowed her handiworks and also bought it. Although Hester Prynne is an outcast, she remains able to support herself due to her uncommon talent in the needlework. Hester Prynne's taste for the beautiful infuses her embroidery, rendering her handiworks fit to be worn by the governor despite of its shameful source. The society's small-minded and contemptuous attitudes are best exemplified in their refusal to allow Hester Prynne to sew garments for weddings, as if she would contaminate the sacredness of marriage were she to do so. Hester Prynne moved to the outskirts of the town and secluded herself and her daughter Pearl. She did that. She did that not only for herself but to save her daughter from the hatred and ill treatment of the people of their society. However difficult it was, Hester Prynne did not give up on her daughter. Her daughter was not following the rules of the Protestants and was a wild child by nature. Hester Prynne's daughter was very rebellious on her own ways, which was not liked by other peoples in the society. When her daughter was about to be taken away from Hester Prynne, she was actually fighting against the authorities to keep her daughter Pearl with herself. Though Hester Prynne had multiple opportunities to reveal the name of the child's father, she did not use it. Hester Prynne was super secretive and independent. Hester Prynne was putting her life out of misery by all by herself. She did not expect any male's companion or help to redeem herself. She was self-made and self-revivable, and she did the best she could by staying out of everyone's life while making her life a better one. Gradually, the people started to realize the true, brave, and courageous heart of Hester Prynne and was adored by many people of their society. She soon gains the respect of other women in Boston, becoming something of a quiet confidant for the people of her society. Even after, when she was acquitted from her sin after the confession of Arthur Dimmesdale, the actual father of Hester Prynne's daughter Pearl, Hester Prynne moved to England along with her daughter and wore the scarlet letter A, always on her chest in remembrance of the sin she has committed. Her intricate embroidery of her scarlet letter A demonstrates her attitude about her sin as she has committed adultery. Hester Prynne wore the scarlet letter out of choice and not out of obligation, even though the scarlet letter A was considered to be an object of shame. I would like to conclude my paper by stating that Hester Prynne gave the scarlet letter a new meaning. At the end of the novel, the scarlet letter A was not just a scarlet letter, but she gave a new meaning to the scarlet letter A. Hester Prynne used the scarlet letter as an object to redeem herself. The scarlet letter taught Hester Prynne to be independent, brave-hearted, courageous, strong-willed, and the empowering women of the century. She was exhibiting the qualities of a powerful feminist. In a patriarchal society, Hester Prynne made a huge difference through her actions. Hester Prynne was resilient to the negative remarks and made herself a strong woman, and she is indeed the first true American fictional heroine. Nathaniel Hawthorne portrays Hester Prynne as an admirable figure due to her courage, relentlessness, and her ultimate transformation after committing adultery, which is considered as a sin to the Puritan community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was indeed an insightful presentation. Now, I would request our next presenter, serial.
Hello. Sorry.
Yes. My present paper is National Movement and Historical Incidents in the Select Novels of Chaman Nahal's The Gandhi Quartet. The historical moments, the Salt March and the non-cooperation movement played a major role in India's struggle for independence from British rule. First of all, I would like to talk on national moments like National Salt Satyagraha. It started by Mahatma Gandhi on 12th March of 1930 from Ahmedabad, Gujarat to Dandi, a small village in Navsari district. This movement was occurred due to the unwanted tax on the salt. Gandhiji believes that salt is used in the food and it's an unbearable and unwanted tax taken by the British government. So he declared, with this salt, I am shaking the foundation of the British Empire. And he started to take a march from the Ahmedabad to Dandi town for the 241 miles. Mahatma Gandhi has given an opinion on Satyagraha as a does Satyagraha means? Satyagraha means establish or to the medium of non-violence. Satyagraha means to resist the atrocity and oppressions of injustice and untruth with the power of non-violence. There were many historical incidents occurred during the Gandhian time as shown in the PPT like Satyagraha movement organized South Africa Satyagraha in 1906, Champaran Satyagraha in 1917, non-cooperation movement in 1918 to 1930, Kheda Satyagraha in 1980, Botsat Satyagraha in 1923, Bardoli Satyagraha in 1928, Salt Satyagraha in 1930. I would like to introduce about the biographical sketch of Chaman Nahal. Chaman Nahal was born in 1927 in Sialkot, a small town which is now in Pakistan. He took his pre-education in Sialkot. He qualified MA in English from the University of Delhi in 1948. He served as a professor of English in Delhi University in the duration of 1930 to 1922. Chaman Nahal is a renowned novelist, essayist, story writer, and a versatile genius of postmodern Indian English literature. His novels are primarily concerned with political, social, and mythical issues as well as Indian culture. His novels are about political and freedom struggle. He has also presented the conflicts and violence between communication across India during the time of partition and that of its aftermath. He has portrayed Gandhi and his life lively. He is a highly appreciated story writer. His portrait of the trauma of partition won him the Sahitya Academy Award in 1977. His literary careers, he has written novels like My True Faces in 1973, Azadi in 1975, The Crown and the Loincloth in 1981, The Salt of Life in 1990, The Dream of Color, and The Gandhi Portrait. The as Chaman Nahal's The Gandhi Portrait's second volume, The Salt of Life describes about the tax on 25% on salt. With the aim of Purna Swaraj, complete self-governance, Mahatma Gandhi and 78 Satyagrahis started the Salt March on 12 March 1930 against this salt tax, and after a journey of 390 kilometers reached Dandi on 5th April. On the morning of 6th April 1930, Mahatma Gandhi broke the salt law by taking a pinch of salt from the coast of Dandi village. We can see many organizations and strategies of Satyagraha includes like rallies, provocations, refusal to cooperate with techniques including picketing, economic, political boycotting of government position, civil disobedience to unjust law. They include open beach of assembly crossing, restricted barriers, taking direct possessions like taking possession of salt agars, running operation of a Gram Sabha or public institution opening at the district level. Gandhiji had also talked about the Quit India movement in 1942. This was the last moment of the Indian freedom struggle under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi to achieve complete independence. On 8th August, at the All India Congress Committee sessions, Gandhi gave the call of do or die. Quit India movement became the moment of each and every countryman with anti-British sentiments widely spread across the nation. This moment was a turning point for India's freedom struggle and played a vital role for achieving independence in 1947. At last, I want to conclude my topic with historical incidents like Gandhi-Irving Pact on 5th March 1931, the second round table conference, the Rolec Bills, which creates of the non-cooperation movement, but it was cancelled due to violence at the Chori Chora village in Bihar, where people had burned the policemen. So it's converted into violence and bloodshed. As Gandhi and his volunteers wanted to use hand-spun clothes, so they started a campaign on charkha and learn people to stitch their clothes own self as khadi. They started more khadi bhandar as a representative of homemade spun. He had also opposed the Rolex bills and violence at Chori Chora. With that, I conclude my topic of Gandhian influence on the Indian English literature. Thank you.
Thank you,
This
sir.
is
Thank you for, yes, sir.
yes, this is the website ad I want to include. Thank you.
Thank you for enlightening presentation, sir. We truly appreciate your presentation. Now I would request our next presenter, serial number 21, Miss Aishwarya R. And the title of her paper is A Study of Displacement in Jean Rye's novel, Wide Sargasso Sea. And also I request our next presenter, serial number 22, Miss Rekha Ghosh, to be ready.
I'll share my.
Yes, please continue.
Right. So we are all aware that the success and growth of either an individual or an organization are attributed to one's innovative and creative thinking. Innovation, creativity, and employability. They are said to be the three lines of a triangle and are related to the thought process of a human being. They're the basic tenets of the growth of an individual, organization, and especially nation in general. Each feature is intertwined with the other. They together unearth the hidden talent of the individuals and help foster the growth of a nation. Their innovation, especially innovation and creativity, they are the two sides of the same coin. They're inseparably separable. Innovation, as dictionary refers to the introduction of a new thing, thinking out of the box. It is a unique quality. All don't have this kind of thinking out of the box. Sometimes what happens, this thinking and creativity and thinking are related to each other. When we are creative, we think novel. When we think novel, it will be creative. We are all aware that an idea can change your life. And creativity is thinking up new things and innovation is doing new things. To make it clear, to be creative and innovative, people need to have a lot of courage and confidence. You cannot explore an ocean unless you have the courage to lose the sight of the shore. And another important thing is they are attributed to growth and progress. As I have already told you, they are attributed to innovative thinking and creative ideas. It may be either an individual or a nation. And another important point I have to mention here is courage and confidence worth millions. And thinking out of the box, sometimes what happens, of course, in cases of certain people, it is also likely to result in failures and heavy loss also. In those moments, one should have a lot of courage. When we want to have courage and confidence, we should also be venturesome. When we are venturesome, it is likely to lead to success also. And another important thing is, by to be creative and think novel, one need not be in an area, of course, by staying at home, because idea is nobody's monopoly. Thought process is nobody's monopoly. By staying at home, one can have one's own creative ideas. They will help us develop ourselves, and at the same time, they will also help the nation. When we quote certain things, of course, the successful brands which we are enjoying today in the market, they're all sprouted from innovative thinking. And another, as a related employability also, copious opportunities. These successful brands are by being creative, being thoughtful, being innovative. It is also a source of potential employment. It is a life giver to many unemployed youth also, because when a novel idea sprouts in the mind of an individual, once it is brought to the market, it will give a lot of employment to the people also. And another important point I have to make clear here is, to be innovative and creative, lot of scrutiny and observation are needed. Observation and study of the needs of the people. Based on the needs of the people, we can be creative and try to help people in some way or the other. It needs a scientific outlook, of course. Arising and upcoming requirements of the people should also be taken into consideration. To cite a few examples I have quoted here, since the time constraints don't permit me to take many, I have quoted here the Swiggy, Instamart, Zomato, Ola cabs, or online teaching, or online business, or Google Maps, which we are all aware of all these things. And if we take the example of Swiggy for that matter, which was started in 2013, it is the brainchild of Sriharsha Majetti and Nandan Reddy. And now it has spread to more than 300 cities, and it is generating 2,675 crores of rupees. And they are getting a profit of 1,616 crores. And another important point is, it is providing employment to lakhs of unemployed youth. This has sprouted from an innovative idea only, keeping the needs of the people. It is also serving the needs of millions of people. It is time tested, of course. When we are innovative and creative, we should also keep the time. When two brands, for example, when two brands are there, when two companies are there, which company is better, it all tests the patience of the people, and it is also a test for the companies also. How best we are serving the needs of the people, it is time tested. There, the value and importance of time is also noticed. And another important thing is, they're able to reach the people, millions of people across the globe in many cities. Utility of time is also important here, identified here. Once being creative and being innovative, and in tune with the time, that's also very important to catch the needs of the people, to meet the needs of address the problems of the people also. And another important example I have quoted here, cited here, is Ola. It's a multinational ride-sharing company. Founders Bhavish Agarwal and Ankit Bhatti, which was started in 2010. We know, just with a single press of a button in our own mobile, we can call it is at our own home. Now it has spread to 250 cities, both in India and abroad. In addition to India, they have also spread their tentacles, their business in Australia, New Zealand, England, and they're generating a revenue of 2,544 crores, and the number of employees, it is 3,000 at present. And so I just wanted to make it clear that by being creative and innovative, one can provide employability to lakhs of people. When we take the examples of multinational companies for the multinational companies, MNCs, they're providing employment to lakhs of people. And the establishment of multinational companies is sprouted from one's own innovative thinking, innovative idea only. And we have multiple number of examples in society, in market today, where we are enjoying and we are all the basic needs of the people are being met through the innovative ideas, through the creative ideas that have arisen in the minds of the people. And at the same time, and we are all aware that the whole world is in the process of privatization. In this global village, through privatization, this innovative thinking, creative ideas are also likely to provide employability to lakhs of people. And from the perspective of our own teaching, from our own colleges and institutions, I want to focus that. And it is the need of the hour to the teaching faculty to emphasize and focus to enable the students to be creative, to make them think out of the box on how it is going to benefit the people in general, nation in specifically, and to the individuals also. This is what I wanted to focus through my paper. And since the time constraints don't permit me to quote many other examples, I conclude here. I am speaking from USA. I have been awake throughout the night to be part of this international conference. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. This was indeed a very wonderful presentation. Now, I would like to present our next presenter, serial number 24, Ms. Paulami Kundu, and the title of the paper is Language as Power.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am, and good evening, everyone. This is R. Aishwarya from Holy Cross College, and my topic is on a study of displacement in Jean Ryan's novel White Cirrasco Sea. And I'll first start about the introduction about British literature, where British literature, it includes genres such as epic poetry, hagiography, Bible translation, legal works, chronicles, ridicules, and others. And it also refers to all literatures produced by British authors from the United Kingdom and United Kingdom, which includes England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and many more places. And basically talks about the early focuses of written English and the British tradition in literature. And I'm just talking about British literature because this novel is about the British literature writer. And when it comes to Jean Ryan, also introduction, if you want me to say it in short words, Jean Ryan is a British novelist, and she was born in 1890 and she died at 1979. And she was born and grew up in Caribbean island of Jamaica, and so she's popularly known as Jamaican writer. And her occupation is novelist, short story writer, and essayist. And she mainly focuses on postmodernism and modernism. And this is postmodernism. The novel which I'm going to take is I have taken as postmodernism theory, and her notable works are Midnight, and Good Morning, White Cirrasco Sea are her basic famous novels. And and the next thing was about the displacement. Displacement is actually it is displacement was first came to higher reach during the 20th century, where during 20th century most of the works were based on displacement. And when it comes to displacement, it is found in post-colonial and modern literature. The aim is to identify the crisis emerged by the character, and the character and the struggle of the character for being displaced from her own identity or something like that. And displacement in this novel is And in this novel, Displacement talks about how the character is being separated. And in my work, my work summary of my work is this novel is initially set in Jamaica, which opens as a story while after the Slavery Abortion Act in 1833, and the protagonist is Antoinette, who relates the story to her life from childhood to arranged marriage to an English gentleman, Mr. Rochester. And they were really lovely couples for some time. And when the days got older, after some days they had some miscommunication, and Rochester started to believe on others work when it comes to others words when it comes to Antoinette. And so this made a clash between them. To irritate Antoinette, Rochester slept with one of her servant, Emilia, and this made her realize that her husband betrays and identifies the cause of Antoinette to go into an insane. And she became so Griffin. She met into Griffin sadness, which results in the beginning and sent to isolation to England. And so you can see now the displacement is being portrayed here, and the novel ends with Antoinette holding a candle and walking down the stairs. And here the thing is, this you can relate this story with a second part, a kind of a second part of Jane Eyre, written by Charles Bronte, which was written during 1847. And this work, White Sarascosi, was written in 1966. And in 1847, written by Charles Bronte, the Jane Eyre talks about the life of Rochester and never says the life of Antoinette, which portrays like Antoinette is completely bad. But here, in this novel, Jean Ryan tries to prove the difficulties which should have been faced by Antoinette to move into a madness stage. And the next thing is the influence of displacement in my work. And in this novel, the main character experienced the displacement, which is Antoinette experienced the displacement and is deeply affected by it. And this influenced the behavior of her regular life. Due to the displacement, she becomes a mad woman, and at last it is portrayed that she is someone who's bad. And Antoinette's husband, Rochester, could relate it regarding his emotions, where he was a Western man, and he couldn't accept that he's been a second option for Antoinette, and this made him separate her from his life. But actually, it was out of anger he did it, where he was not even having an idea or thought process of asking it to her, so that he could hear the words from her and know the truth. But he was kind of completely believing in others' words rather than Antoinette words. And this concept was constantly being isolated with the colonized populations, where you see, I just actually, this novel is best for feminism, but I just wanted to make sure this novel is also a displacement focused novel, where I just wanted to justify the problems of Antoinette as a woman being displaced displaced along to England from her husband during 80s, where it's really a cruel period, where a woman to be separated from her husband and living alone. And that's the thing. And these are my references, and thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was a very captivating presentation. Now I request our next presenter, serial number 24, Ms. Paulami Kundu, to represent
Yes,
her.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible? So today my topic is language power. I am Paulami Kundu, and I'm student of English Masters. So everyone communicates in their own way, and ways to communicate, like with the facial expression, gestures, words, sentences, etc. But language. So language always gives us the words and the ways to say to share our own thoughts, ideas, desire, wishes, etc. Language is not only a key component of communication, it is also a key aspect of identity. The words which we choose to communicate with the others is also identifying that who we are or who am I. So through the language, we become a kind of part of the community that speaks the language, and hence coming that we are becoming the person within the society. We are becoming the members of the community. So now coming the idea of the power of bilingualism also here. Next, I is a kind of very supercharged word. When we say that, when you say I am, so the word that follow the speaks volumes to yourself, to others, and how you define yourself through the use of the word I. We can define our own values and ideas. When we say that I have, I choose, I love, I enjoy, I can. So these are the very words that have a kind of strong intent. When we feel a kind of power, when we feel powerful, we naturally employ these kinds of words like I. Fowler, Cromary, and Ober have supported the view that power is developed and maintained via interaction also. This is a kind of the social practice of the language. These scholars have also argued that language or discourse serves to construct and manipulate concepts of power in society. Language is also delineated as a kind of social practice that has been mentioned in Fowler 61, and by which power relations are established and sustained also. Beside institutional power or the power exercised by the entities that are overtly recognized for holding a kind of position of the authority. Let's say the idea of the police here, that how the police is actually having its authority over the general people. So there is also exists the other types of power relations, that between the family members, between the educated, uneducated people, between the category of the in this category of the power relation, we can use the language, and having the tool of the language, we are maintaining our status and as well as power. So when we see a kind of text or writing, there is always a kind of point of view that consists of the author, that author or the writer. So reader or the audience don't have such kind of right to eliminate the ideas of the author or the writer. I say that before Rolla Birth came to forefront also. So here the writers are presenting their power over the readers. In society, we can also see that how the power structure is constructed, and how the pupil who is having a kind of sense of language, sense of knowledge, scientific truth, have acquired language in a very special manner, having the kind of power within the society. So in such a way, in institutions, the teachers show their powers, that they have more ideas than the student. There is also a kind of power relation that exists within the student and the teacher. And also we can see in the family that when a father or mother is just teaching his or her child, there is also kind of power relations exist within the relationship. And thus the power language is deeply connected with the structure or the structure of the power. In a conversation between a father and a son, in the very short story, like a meeting in the dark by African writer Gogi Worth Yonge, that there is a conversation that sit down, where are you going for a talk, father? Yes. Well, yes, no. So I mean now where in particular. So here we can see that how the father is holding the authority by using his language, and here is a kind of a swing of the power of the father to his son has been portrayed here. There is also talked about that the language is a kind of weapon, and Foucault uses the term like power, or let's say knowledge, to signify that the power is constituted through accepted forms of knowledge, scientific understanding, and truth. Bertrand Russell, the logician, come philosopher and social activist, that published a kind of relatively little knowledge, little known book on the power that where World War II was looming large in Europe. So in it he asserted that the fundamental importance of the concept of the hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So according to the Burton Russell is there that how the power is constructed within the social sciences and like in the importance of the concept of energy in physical sciences also. And language, according to Stevens, that language is a kind of fundamental software, that it is also our beliefs and our beliefs also. So our beliefs and behaviors are heavily influenced by our personal use of the language. We can see that how our whole society is constructed with the power. In politics, we can see the power also. That how the people are having their own importance within their own society or within their own mind, that how we are projecting our thoughts through the language, and thus we are just preparing ourselves or presenting ourselves better in our own way. So here also Stevens, by consciously monitoring and choosing our language, we can effectively reprogram our lives by upgrading our language choices. Stephen asserts that we can upgrade our attitudes, beliefs, and life patterns both. So language is having its own power in every phase of life according to the use and the urge of the human beings. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We truly appreciate your participation. Now, I would like to request the last speaker of this session, serial number 25, Dr. Madhulika Panda, to present her presentation. And the title of the paper is Emerging Trends in the Teaching of English Language Vis-a-vis Globalization.
Madam, what about me? Has my request been conveyed?
I have conveyed the request.
Yes. The title of my paper is Emerging Trends in the Teaching of English versus Globalization. The term globalization was actually coined and had been in circulation in since 1980s, and it got accentuated in the later half of the 20th century. But it's been a long historical process. It has had varied effects on different aspects of the world, be it social, political, economic, language. And its effect on English language has been very strongly felt because it's almost after that English emerged as the lingua franca. And it has become the language of business, of commerce, of technology, of science, and more importantly, that of instruction and higher education across the world. So obviously more and more people are interested to learn English to become a part of the global market. And globalization, along with the technological advancement that it has brought with it in the 21st century, has brought about a dramatic shift in the teaching of English language. And further, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased education implication of technology, added teaching of the English language. So in this whole process, there have been a lot of emerging trends that have actually permeated the English language classroom and thereby reshaping it in a lot of ways. And my paper seeks to study these newly emerged trends. One major consequence of globalization is the increased spread and interconnectedness of language, in particular the English language. As per Crystal, 85% of the world's international organizations use English as the official language in transnational communication, and 90% of the published academic articles are written in English. And it's quite obvious that the biggest plus of globalization is the technological advancement. And particularly, it's the rise of computer-mediated communication, and internet, obviously more important than anything else, has actually reshaped the use of technology for language teaching. ICT, information communication technology, has actually become inevitable in the 21st century, and it has permeated the language classroom. And the biggest advantage is it has actually enriched the learning experiences of the students as well as the teaching pedagogy of teachers. And more significantly, it promotes independence among learners, and it gives them a plethora of choices to learn language via technology. And coming to CALL, which all of us are aware of, it's a defining feature of ICT. It's not a new feature, of course. It has been in use for quite a long time. And computer acts as a stimulus, as all of us are aware of it, to generate analysis, discussion, and writing. So according to Warsher, the pedagogy is being redefined, and the traditional English language classroom is actually being transformed into a technology-assisted classroom. Besides that, it's the role of internet, which is quite well known to all of us, has been the major medium actually to exchange information. And according to Warsher, Setzer, and Maloney, they proposed 5 main reasons to use the internet, and they called it alive. Authenticity, standing for authenticity, literacy, interaction, vitality, and empowerment. Of course, there are several other reasons for using internet and language teaching. Provides opportunities for learners to interact with native and non-native speakers around the world. The linguistic nature of online communication is desirable for language learning. And more importantly, it significantly motivates learners, which is a very important criteria in a language classroom. Besides that is the emergence of ebooks, interactive whiteboard, the mobile apps, and the recent most innovation that is Language Lab have brought about sweeping changes in the English language classroom. We are seeing that ebooks are replacing the printed text very fast, and the interactive whiteboard has made teaching vocabulary, word formation, and teaching of sounds much easier than ever before. And we have all, as English teachers, we have been using overhead projectors, film projectors, television, and the mobile digital devices as well, that has actually made language teaching more effective. And the recent most invention, that is Language Lab, set up with softwares that aid language teaching. And the biggest advantage here is many of us must be using the Language Lab in the classroom. It provides the teacher with multiple options to contribute towards developing all the 4 language skills. And students can themselves read, listen, record, and even correct their mistakes, thereby improving their language skills. And a significant reform that globalization has brought in is employing Web 2 technologies in the language classroom. The second generation net tools like blogs, wikis, podcasts, they have actually allowed learners to get information regardless of, irrespective of the border. So as Sis and Melahi in 2001 pointed out, web technologies, especially the Web 2 technologies, they're fascinating because they capture learners' attention. And if the learning environment is meaningful and attractive, it actually fascinates learners, that all of us as teachers maybe realize that. And in the terms of Prensky, he coined a new term, digital natives. The learners of 21st century are actually digital natives because they use technology and they learn technology and they use technology much more differently than their parents and teachers did. So learners are more involved in the learning process because web technologies offer great opportunities. And so it's a must to address them with developing technologies. And so besides that, the COVID-19 pandemic significantly affected not just the English classroom, the entire education system, because online teaching methods substituted the conventional classroom and became the new normal. So the mode of e-learning adopted during COVID-19 demonstrated that technology embedded English language teaching provides continuous guidance and knowledge accomplishment competently. And the biggest advantage was the course assignments could be programmed and planned around individual and specialized requirements, which was a very big advantage. So when technology is embedded into ELT, it effectively awakens interest, said Chakravarti. Besides the technological part of it, we are witnessing that the emphasis of teaching English now is not on teaching English literature or the language per se. The primary focus is now on communication purposes, obviously because English has emerged as a lingua franca. It's a language of opportunities. Obviously, more and more people are interested to learn English to operate on a global scale. And the goals of ELT have also started changing. They are actually focusing solely on developing language skills and mimicking native speakers towards fostering a sense of social responsibility. So teachers do realize now that it's not just mimicking social native speakers. What is important is to produce fully competent language users, critical thinkers, and constructive social change agents, to quote Crystal and Cook. And the focus is now on the expansion of the framework of communicative competence. It is not just communicative competence, it's actually focusing on multi-competence and intercultural communicative competence. And what is significant is that the effectiveness of teachers is not determined by their being native speakers of English, rather by their linguistic competence, teaching competence, and intercultural competence. So in an English language classroom, teachers, they have assumed multiple roles. They are not just facilitators of learning, they're creators of a productive classroom environment as well. And they're no longer teaching in isolation. They have the opportunities to co-teach, to team teach, and collaborate with other teachers from other disciplines. And another trend in ELT that's coming up today is to make students independent learners, in fact, lifelong learners, to equip them with appropriate learning strategies. I would say learners are now learning how to learn. So that is a very big a change that's we are witnessing in English language teaching classroom. And besides that, with the COVID situation still looming large, blended learning, flipped classroom, and gamification, a few other strategies being recently adopted to make language learning more productive. To conclude, in the era of globalization, English is taught as a medium of instruction, language of commerce, language of business, language of science, of technology, as a medium of instruction in higher education across the globe. So integration of all these, the technology, online tools, and newly evolving strategies, they have made and will still make language learning appealing and dynamic. And learners can interact with the content, teachers, and peer members, and thereby enhancing collaborative learning. These were a few of my insights on recent trends in English language teaching. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for delivering an illuminating presentation. Now, I would like to conclude this session by, on the behalf of International Conference on Global Trends.
Excuse me, I'm sorry for the interruption. I think the sir has asked. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to present my paper titled Graphic Organizers, a Great Way to Teach and Learn the English Language. I'm Ms. Sharon, and I teach English at Alpha Arts and Science College, which is located in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu. And I have been teaching English for the past 15 years now. And recently, the way I teach the language has changed, has evolved into, to accommodate global teaching and learning methodologies. So from this, I would like to just share my views and my experiences, my observations in teaching of English as a second language to people who come from semi-urban areas as well as urban areas, people who have done their schooling in possibly the vernacular medium of, of study. And hence, when they come to the college level, higher education level, English is not their strong point. However, they require English, good spoken and written communication skills in order to do well in their academics as well as to get a good job at the end of the 3 years or even in the 5th and 6th semesters. So for the past several years, even a decade or so, we have been struggling really to inculcate or to hone the communication skills of our students, all the 4 skills. And we have found it a great challenge because right from school, they have learned English only in Tamil, through Tamil or in Tamil. English also has been taught in the vernacular medium. And when they come to college, they do not know the basics. For example, even to say sorry, thank you, please, and excuse me. Now, in the past few years, with a great change in the way English is being taught, it's skill-based, application-based, and task-based, we find that the syllabus or the curriculum itself is more proactive, and it only aims to teach children or students, college students, the skills rather than teach English through poetry or prose. So in the past 2 years, I have been exploring and experimenting the use of graphic organizers to teach the 4 language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And I find it a great and useful boon to the English teacher, that we are able to teach language skills in a very simplified manner using visual representation. So as I have put up on the screen, it's basically, graphic organizers help the teacher and the learner to be able to organize the information that they are listening to, organize the information that they are reading, or organize the information that they are going to write or even speak. And it is basically an integration of text and visuals. It helps us to understand the content that we are listening to or reading better. There are several benefits to why an English teacher, one of us should use graphic organizers. Definitely, it simplifies the whole process of learning. It does not make it kind of breaks up the writing process or the speaking process or the listening process into smaller, more coherent and sequential chunks. And so the students are able to, feel more comfortable and more confident that they can handle, the topic. So it actually helps them to actually lends itself to both to individual work, to pair work, and as well as group work. So it helps the student to feel more comfortable inside the English classroom. It leads to brainstorming, critical thinking, categorizing, and prioritizing of content, as well as reflection of the content. And it greatly lends itself to, promotes itself to self. It greatly promotes self-learning. So there are various functions that a graphic organizer does: describing, comparing, contrasting, sequencing, problem solving, decision making, cause and effect. So as an English teacher, in my classroom, I make use of these for the following graphic organizers to teach various aspects of the language learning process. To teach vocabulary, I use the cluster or the word web. Okay, to differentiate between fact and opinion using words like I think and so on, we use fact and opinion chart, KWL chart, the persuasion map, flow charts to sequence information. Okay, the sequence chart, the story map, giving them a story and asking them to identify the sequence of the story, doing a character analysis, and also the Venn diagram to compare and contrast. Let me quickly run you through what I do in my classes for paragraph writing. I love this graphic organizer, and it is called the hamburger model. I'm sure none of us will ever forget paragraph writing, how to write a paragraph after we learn the hamburger model. So just as it is depicted on the screen, the hamburger model teaches the learner that, there must be every sentence must have, every paragraph must have a topic sentence. It must have at least 3 supporting details as evidence or example, and every paragraph must end with a concluding statement. Carry over the same when you write an essay. This is what we tell our students. And I always remember that when I write a paragraph, I must have I must follow the hamburger model. And I believe that my students also follow the same. They attempt it. At least, they have a visual visual image which reminds them how to write a paragraph the best way possible. So this template can be given to them. There are hundreds and thousands of templates online. So it makes the job of an English teacher much easier these days. When students have to read a story, okay, as you see on the screen, maybe they have a story map to identify the sequence of the story, or they would like to do a character analysis. Okay, so you just have to make sure the previous day we give it to them. We just share it with them by mail or by WhatsApp, and this is what the student can do during class. This can be done as teamwork, pair work, or group work. So they simply read the story. This can also be given as an assignment, as a home assignment. They have to read through the story. They have to list out the main characters, the setting, and at the end of this, they after completing this task, they will end up writing an essay. They will end up writing an analysis of the story. Only thing is, once they have identified all this information, like the main characters and the setting, the supporting characters, all that, they have all the information which they require to write a better essay. So this really helps in the classroom where they have all the information organized together. So even for character analysis, character description, okay, what kind of person the person is, and what is the example you find there, what is the proof. So with the proof, the student has to write why you say that a person's character is this. So you can see a character map on my left, on your right to the screen, feelings, descriptions, behavior, personality traits. So you have different graphic organizers, and you can make use of it to get your students to read the information. Very often we give students material to read, but at the end of the hour, we don't know whether they have read or not. And what is the end result? We expect them to write something, but a graphic organizer helps them to kind of put the information, categorize the information, in different ways, and then use that information to write a more logical, coherent, and sequential essay or a paragraph. These are some of the other graphic organizers that are very much available for the use of an English teacher, and we have been using it as a department in our institution. The spider web, okay, so when you read and take notes, the fishbone used for note taking as a note taking exercise, okay, and the Venn diagram, I'm just running through. Okay, when you want, for example, the flow chart or the sequence organizer, when you teach students how to write instructions or how to write process descriptions. So the first one, then the next one, and third one, and so on. We can easily make use of a simple flow chart like this, and based on that, at the end of this, they will first organize the information in this flow chart or the graphic organizer, following which they will write a paragraph describing, and they will use sequence words: firstly, next, last, finally, initially. So we teach them these as well. And this is a biography organizer. In case you have students reading biography or an autobiography, okay, this is another template that we as English teachers can make use of during in our classes for the students. So all these graphic organizers help make the teaching learning process inside the classroom more effective, more productive, and more meaningful. Okay, and at the end of the session, the teacher, we as a teacher can assess what work this student has done. In earlier cases, when excuse me. Earlier, when without the use of organizers, probably the outcome in each class was not so very effective. Okay, so we would go with one aim and we would not be able to complete the task that we had planned to do. But graphic organizers help you to stick on to your plan. The KWL chart, which we use for reading. Okay, so what I already know. So before reading, the child has to read the title and has to find out what I already know and what I would like to know on this topic. And after reading, so the first one is what I already know before reading, okay, the pre-reading. And the second one, what I want to know is, and what I have learned, it is after reading. So before reading, pre-reading, while reading, and after reading. So this is another very useful chart which we can make use of in the classroom. And when a student has, when a teacher gives a task, a reading task, what are the new vocabulary that, what are the new words that they have got from the particular, reading exercise? Ask them to list it down. And for each task, write the word in the middle. What is the definition? What is the, synonym? And maybe even the antonym. Draw a picture that could represent it and use it in a sentence. So all these make the learning process more interesting, okay, for the student. There are many organizers depending on what skill, language skill we wish to teach our learners inside the classroom. We can easily, make use of graphic organizers, a problem solving essay, problem solution essay, cluster, a mind map, connecting ideas, connecting many words, giving the synonyms of words, or relating words, okay, giving words that are related. This is the fishbone diagram commonly used for cause and effect thing, and also cause and effect essay or paragraph. Mind map to brainstorm. So students can, when they are speaking, they can create a mind map to put down the ideas which they have brainstormed. For comparison of differences and similarities between two subjects, a Venn diagram. So I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that the world of graphic organizers is a huge, vast ocean out there available free of cost for every English teacher. It makes our tasks easier, more interesting, and more productive at the end of the day. And by using this, we make the learning process more interesting, more meaningful to the student as well. The student gains more, confidence that they are able to, as I have listed out, they're able to communicate their ideas better. They're able to think more clearly. Okay, they're able to brainstorm more confidently. They're able to evaluate cause and effect. They're able to compare and contrast ideas, and vocabulary also expands as a result of that, especially when their writing skills, organized writing, coherent writing, is developed as a result of using these graphic organizers. Thank you so much for permitting me to present my paper today. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We truly appreciate your participation. Now, I would like to conclude our second session. And
Yes,
on the
please.
behalf of
Wait.
Gene Rees to ICT, to new technologies and whatnot. So there was a wide variety of topics that we covered. In general, I had a few things for the presenters, which I would like to just point out that in your PPT, try not to have too much text, because too much text is essentially, it feels like you're reading from the slide. But the idea of a PowerPoint is to have a mixture of media as well as just some pointers. And then so that the speaker also listens to you presenting. Secondly, your sources. We had a presentation on Jean Rees, and the sources mentioned Spark Notes. So I wanted to tell the presenter that please have better sources for your presentations than using, because they're essentially just guides for literature students, but make sure that you have very good references. Similarly, in the last presentation we had on emerging trends of English language, by the last one we had by Ma'am Sharon Emmanuel. I really wanted to know her sources for all the graphic organizers. So sources are very important to be mentioned in your presentation. Apart from that, please, we cannot, have the pronunciations that we generally have, but for the name of the writers, I think we can make an effort to really get the pronunciation right of your main writers. There were some presenters who were mispronouncing the name of the writers that they were presenting a paper on. So that's one feedback. And one last request would be that whenever you're presenting, please make sure that your video is on, and as well as that you adhere to the time limit.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, we can hear you, Rekha ji now. We can absolutely hear you. Research Culture Society, Department of English, Mila University Center, Algeria, and International Scientific Research Association, and on my own behalf, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for gracing their important work and sharings with us today. I look forward for more of such informational sessions. Have a great day, everyone.
थैंक यू मैम। हम इंग्लिश में थोड़ा